understood to be investigating Sibiya, confiscated cell phones, laptops, as well as other electronic devices. Sibiya says he believes that his investigation is aimed at ousting him from the SAPS.
It happened at sunrise, flashing lights outside the home of one of South Africa's most powerful cops. Officers stormed through the gates of Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, the man once trusted to hunt down criminals, now the target of his own force. The raid came just days after alleged crime boss Cat Matlala exposed him in a bombshell testimony that blew open the dark ties between police and the underworld. But if the man sworn to uphold the law was secretly protecting it from within, how deep does the rot really go?
Know that he sits in jail right now. He was arrested a couple of months ago, at least 6 months ago, on charges of attempted and that relates to his then girlfriend. That's what we know.
To understand the chaos tearing through South Africa's police service, you have to start with the two men at the center of it all, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya and Vumani Cat Matlala. On paper, Sibiya was everything you'd expect from a top law enforcement officer, disciplined, respected, and fiercely ambitious. He built his career in the South African Police Service, SAPS, over decades, working his way through some of the country's toughest investigative units. His reputation as a strategist earned him one of the most powerful roles in the force, Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection. It was his job to track down the syndicates destroying communities, to dismantle organized crime networks, and to ensure the system stayed clean. That's what made the later revelations so shocking.
To the other now in Centurion, where the suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner General, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, now appears to be facing arrest. That's relating to ongoing investigations around corruption within the SAPS.
Sibiya had spent years leading elite crime-fighting teams and working closely with intelligence departments. His name often surfaced in connection with big arrests, cross-border operations, and sensitive investigations involving political figures. He knew the system inside and out, every weakness, every secret, every lever of power. For a long time, he was considered the man you called when the police needed to investigate the police. But that same deep access would later become the that turned against him. When whispers began about high-level officers working with criminal networks, Sibiya's name wasn't supposed to be among them, yet that's exactly where it landed. And then there's Cat Matlala, a name that sounds more like an urban legend than a real person. Except every part of his story is disturbingly real. Matlala wasn't your typical criminal. He wasn't hiding in the shadows or running from justice. He was a businessman, a tender tycoon who built a sprawling empire out of state contracts and private security deals. Companies tied to him, like Medicare 24 and VIP protection services, landed lucrative procurement projects in government departments. Behind the polished image, though, investigators say Matlala was an underworld boss, running operations that stretched from Johannesburg to KwaZulu-Natal. His alleged portfolio included everything from money laundering and procurement fraud to connections with hit squads. What made Matlala so dangerous wasn't just his money, it was his reach. He allegedly had allies inside law enforcement, within ministries, and even among senior intelligence figures. For years, he boasted that generals protect him, a statement many dismissed as arrogance until the raids and testimonies proved otherwise. The overlap between his network and the SAP's leadership became impossible to ignore, and at the center of that overlap stood Sibiya.
Resumes today. That's set to kick off in about 45 minutes. It's after a week-long break. The commission says the pause was necessary to give evidence leaders time to prepare for the next phase of.
The real explosion began inside the hearing room of the Madlanga Commission, a national inquiry created to investigate deep-rooted corruption and political interference within SAPS. It wasn't a normal inquiry. It was a storm. Witness after witness described a police service that had been captured from within, and every trail of evidence led to the same names: General Sibiya, Cat Matlala, and a handful of top-ranking officials who allegedly blurred the line between law enforcement and organized crime. One of the loudest voices was Lieutenant General Nyalanhla Mkhwanazi, the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, who didn't hold back. His testimony shook the room. He accused Sibiya of doing the unthinkable, shielding criminal syndicates, sabotaging crucial investigations, and even dismantling the Political Killings Task Team, which had been investigating politically motivated murders in KZN. According to Mkhwanazi, these moves weren't random bureaucratic reshuffles. They were calculated, designed to protect powerful figures linked to criminal networks, possibly including Matlala himself.
At Sibiya's home was sanctioned by him.
Police, as I've been sitting here the last 2 days, even today as I've been sitting here, they're doing their work. I don't send them.
Then came the bombshell, from National Police Commissioner Fanny Masemola. He testified that an anonymous whistleblower had warned him of a shocking partnership inside the SAP's hierarchy. According to that source, Sibiya and Matlala were so close that they were sharing police intelligence. The whistleblower even described Matlala as a de facto deputy commissioner, allegedly directing police operations alongside Sibiya. It sounded absurd, a crime boss giving orders inside SAPs, but the more investigators dug, the harder it became to dismiss. Soon, digital evidence began surfacing. Encrypted messages, deleted WhatsApp chats, and suspicious financial transactions revealed a pattern: leaks of sensitive information, unexplained payments, and police actions that seemed to benefit Matlala's operations. One set of allegations even connected both men to the kidnapping of businessman Jerry Bashoga, suggesting joint involvement in manipulating ongoing investigations. The commission had turned into a theater of national humiliation. The country was watching senior police officers being cross-examined about corruption, double-dealing, and betrayal. What emerged was a chilling map of state capture within law enforcement, where loyalty to justice had been replaced by loyalty to profit and power. By the time Cat Matlala's own communications were recovered from his confiscated prison phone, the digital trail left little room for denial. His chats mentioned ongoing police investigations, task force details, and even names of officers involved, all of which should have been confidential. Those revelations transformed a scandal into an earthquake. For the first time, South Africa saw how the underworld and the upper ranks of SAPs could operate in the same sentence, the same phone, and perhaps even the same room.
That is the imminent arrest or alleged imminent arrest of General Sibiya, something that, of course, SAPS's Brigadier Glenda Mate has since poured cold water on, saying that as far as they know, nobody has been arrested.
It was just after sunrise when a convoy of unmarked vehicles rolled quietly into the upscale neighborhood where Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya lived. The street, usually calm, was suddenly swarming with tactical officers, detectives, and internal investigators. For residents watching from behind their curtains, it must have looked like a movie scene, armed officers surrounding the home of one of South Africa's most senior police figures. Except this wasn't fiction. It was a real, historic raid on a man once considered untouchable.
Here at his home with his lawyers, and this is after we understand he had met with his lawyers.
And this was after we understand he had met with his lawyers in Johannesburg. There is so much speculation at this particular stage about what is expected to happen.
The operation had been in planning for weeks. After the explosive testimonies at the Madlanga Commission, investigators reportedly gathered enough material to convince a magistrate to issue a search warrant. The warrant was clear. They were to look for anything that could prove links between Sibiya and Vumani Cat Matlala, the alleged underworld figure accused of manipulating the police system from the inside. The list of potential evidence was long: encrypted cell phones, police-issued laptops, classified intelligence documents, bank transaction records, and any correspondence suggesting collusion or leaks. When the tactical unit breached the gates, Sibiya was at home. Witnesses say the officers were professional but firm. They presented their warrant and immediately began sealing off areas of the house. Every electronic device, every cabinet, every briefcase became a potential clue. For a man who once ordered raids himself, watching his home being turned inside out must have felt surreal. The optics of that moment were powerful. The image of police raiding one of their own, not a lower-ranking officer, but the Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, sent shockwaves through the entire force. Cameras soon arrived, journalists crowded the street, and within hours, news outlets were broadcasting the raid live. What had once been dismissed as rumor or political drama was now tangible. The law was physically at Sibiya's door. The legal foundation of the raid rested on suspicions of collusion, misuse of police resources, and obstruction of justice. Investigators believed that Sibiya might have been sharing intelligence or interfering with ongoing investigations tied to Matlala's operations. There were also claims that confidential SAPS information had been leaked, details about surveillance, investigations, and even planned arrests. Each of these could potentially be proven through digital footprints, hidden communications, or financial transactions. By the end of the day, the raid lasted nearly 8 hours. Boxes of documents, hard drives, and encrypted devices were taken away. While no arrests were made on the spot, the consequences were immediate. Sibiya was placed on special leave and within days suspended pending a full investigation. The SAPS issued a statement calling it a matter of internal accountability. But the message was clear. This was no longer internal gossip. It was a criminal probe into the heart of the police hierarchy. What investigators found inside General Sibiya's home has become one of the most tightly guarded secrets in the ongoing case. Official statements from SAPS and the Special Investigating Unit have been vague, citing the sensitivity of the evidence. Still, fragments of information have surfaced through media leaks and insider reports, and they paint a deeply unsettling picture. Sources close to the investigation claim that several electronic devices were seized, including encrypted phones believed to have been used for off-record communications. Laptops containing SAP's internal correspondence and data storage drives were also taken. Analysts later discovered traces of deleted messages and partially wiped drives, suggesting attempts to clean files before the raid. Some of the documents retrieved reportedly contain procurement details and internal memos matching timelines from the Matlala Commission's testimonies. But there's another side to the story. What wasn't found? Investigators noticed suspiciously clean rooms where they expected to uncover sensitive data. Hard drives had been replaced, folders emptied, and filing cabinets locked, but nearly bare. One source told journalists that it looked more like an office that had been prepared for inspection than lived in. That raised more questions than it answered. Was Sibiya tipped off before the raid? And if so, by whom? The absence of certain evidence became as loud as the discoveries themselves. Whispers spread about missing flash drives, redacted documents, and encrypted backups possibly stored off-site or in secure networks. While officials refused to comment, speculation mounted that key data linking Sibiya and Matlala's network might have been scrubbed. Still, investigators hinted that digital forensics had recovered fragments from the seized equipment, enough, perhaps, to rebuild the story. The broader impact of the raid went far beyond Sibiya's home. It sent a message rippling through SAPS: no rank is above scrutiny. Officers once seen as untouchable began facing internal questioning. Oversight bodies, long accused of selective enforcement, suddenly found themselves under pressure to act decisively. The media framed it as a reckoning moment, proof that the state was finally willing to look inward, even if it meant tearing down its own walls. Still, the fallout was messy. Factions within the police force began leaking against each other. Some claimed the raid was politically motivated, a purge disguised as justice. Others argued it was long overdue. Either way, the image of those evidence boxes leaving Sibiya's driveway became a national metaphor. The system was finally searching its own house. The raid on General Shadrack Sibiya's home didn't just shake the foundations of the police service, it cracked open the public's trust in a system already hanging by a thread. Within hours, every major news outlet across South Africa was flashing the same headline: Top cop raided over underworld ties. Talk radio exploded with debate, newspapers printed special editions, and social media turned into a battlefield of outrage and speculation. The country's faith in its justice institutions had been tested before, but this time it felt personal. This was the man responsible for fighting crime, suddenly accused of feeding it. Editorial panels across networks like ENCA, News 24, and SABC ran heated discussions. Commentators called the raid a watershed moment, the clearest sign yet that corruption had reached the heart of law enforcement. Hashtags like #SibiyaRaid, #MatlalaExpose, and #WhoProtectsUs began trending within hours. Twitter, now X, filled with citizens asking one chilling question: if the deputy commissioner is under investigation, who's left to trust? The outrage quickly spilled into politics. Opposition parties, from the Democratic Alliance to the EFF, seized the moment, demanding parliamentary oversight and an emergency inquiry. They accused the government of knowing about these links for years, but turning a blind eye. Some MPs went as far as calling for the police minister's suspension, claiming that political protection had allowed the arat inside SAPS to deepen. Even the smaller parties joined in, using the scandal as proof that South Africa's security sector had been captured by internal factions and criminal interests. Meanwhile, the SAPS and the Ministry of Police scrambled to contain the fallout. Their statements were carefully worded, calm on the surface, but loaded with tension underneath. Officials called for patience and urged the public not to interfere with confidential investigations. The official line was that due process must take its course. Yet few believe those words anymore. When the watchdog is under suspicion, even truth sounds like spin. Inside the police ranks, the reaction was deeply divided. Some officers quietly welcomed the move, calling it a long overdue cleansing of a system corrupted from within. Others saw it as a witch hunt, a politically motivated attempt to remove one faction's loyalist in favor of another. Pro-Sibiya voices claimed the entire saga was engineered by rivals looking to weaken his influence over the crime intelligence portfolio. They pointed to timing, the raid happening right after high-profile testimonies at the Matlala Commission as proof of internal sabotage. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.